Hello, welcome to this dispatches session. I hope that you're having or that you've had a good day at the Literary Consultancy's Writers' Day, or if you're watching this later on, that you have fond memories of an interesting day. As I say, I'm here to give you a dispatch. I suppose it's a dispatch from the front line of book publishing, which I know can sometimes feel daunting and unapproachable. I'm hoping today that I can help dispel some of that feeling a little bit for you. My name is Jeremy Trevathan. I am the publisher of the adult division at Pan Macmillan, one of the 4 biggest publishing groups in the UK. My job title makes it sound as if I publish erotica exclusively, I know, but I promise you that I am actually the head of all our publishing for grown-ups, as opposed to the publishing for kids, which is run by my good colleague and friend, Belinda Rasmussen. But if I'm honest, I do have to admit that we do have erotica on our lists too, so I can't actually deny that. Our imprints include Macmillan, Mantle, Pan, Tor, Picador, and Bluebird. And we publish across pretty much all the genres of fiction and non-fiction in the UK. I've worked at Pan Macmillan for 25 years, which is a long time, and I've worked in book publishing for over 40 years, which is even longer. I think I can call myself a fledgling wise old bird as a result of that. I think the best approach for me here today is to talk to you about what it is that I love about publishing, why I've worked in it for so long, and why I still enjoy it so much. And as a result of that, what I think the relationship between authors and their publishers is. I think the two things are really connected, i.e. why I love publishing and what is the relationship between authors and publishers. Let me explain. So publishing is one of the creative industries. What defines a creative industry is that, unlike almost any other type of business, we are not churning out products that are exactly the same. We are not in the business of producing tins of baked beans or motor cars or computers. Each book or film or play is, like each author, screenwriter, or playwright, totally different. The approach that we take to publishing each book is pretty much unique to each book, with, of course, some similarities, but many differences too. Where we are similar to other industries is that once we've located the books that we're interested to publish, we invest in them financially through the author advances and royalties we pay, the staff we employ to curate and drive through the publishing process, the marketing and publicity costs, the costs of producing the books, warehousing them and distributing them, all to get the books we publish into the bookstores and retailers and onwards into the hands and minds of readers who we're sure will love them. And thereby, as any good business does, we make a return on our investment and hopefully an income for the author and for all the people involved in that complicated process. So that's the basic dichotomy of a publishing company. We transfer a writer's creative and imaginative thoughts into a form that makes them appealing to a broader readership than that writer's family and friends. And while we can become more and more efficient about some of the processes of getting the books to readers, there is no efficient production line that anyone can devise to spark an author's imagination, an editor's passion, a publishing team's enthusiasm, a bookseller's fervor, and a reader's emotional engagement. These qualities genuinely lead to commercial success. I've seen a brilliant editor's work on an author's text that had previously been published in Australia and had sold 1,500 copies, transformed into a 1,000,000-copy international bestseller when published later in the UK and around the world. And this dichotomy, this tension that I mentioned between being a commercial enterprise that sells creativity, leads to exactly what I most enjoy about publishing. It is fundamentally impossible to turn it into a factory production line. And because of that, book publishing is all about people talking, people persuading other people, relationships, passion, collaboration, partnership, and sharing goals and ambitions. These activities are core to what we do. And it's why, for instance, we have all in publishing missed going to the book fairs in the last year because of that world of talking, sharing, and persuading. Now, I am, perhaps controversially to some, a huge fan of Amazon. They have devised the most incredible system of selling and distributing books to readers physically and digitally. Its entrance into the publishing scene has been one of the biggest changes that I've observed in my career, along with ebooks and audiobooks and social media. But try as they might, they, and by they I mean Amazon, they just can't replicate similar efficiencies in the process of finding books to publish, persuading others to back their hunch, generating enthusiasm to create a momentum. It's because they are still fundamentally a bookseller. But even there, they've been unable to replicate readers being hand-sold a book by a good bookseller or readers browsing in bookstores and serendipitously finding a book they never knew they needed. There isn't an algorithm they can devise to replicate these highly important processes of publishing. I presume the reason Amazon started their business back in the mid-90s with books is because they could see that there was so much they could disrupt and make efficient in the highly arcane processes of publishing at that time. And yet they never achieved what Apple and Spotify and indeed Amazon have done with the music industry, where the old business model was wiped out within the space of a few years. So the passion and the persuasive talents of literary agents, commissioning editors, publishing companies, and bricks and mortar bookshops continues, and I would say thrives, even now during such difficult times as we've had during these awful lockdowns. One of the side effects of the arrival of these behemoth organizations into the publishing world has been a growing consolidation of publishing companies into bigger and bigger conglomerates, with the recent Penguin Random House acquisition of Simon & Schuster just being the latest example. This is partly driven by a need to gain the strength and leverage to stand up to the might of Apple, Amazon, and Google in negotiations. But when you read the trade press or press releases, you'll see all kinds of positive spins on deals like these. The companies like to talk about expanding their global reach and investing in broadening their lists. But I wouldn't blame would-be authors for thinking that while these corporate agendas sound good on paper, maybe the consolidation of publishing isn't particularly great for writers. Because within book publishing, consolidation should theoretically mean fewer decision makers and fewer personalities. It should supposedly mean a mandate from the top to acquire only the most commercial works. It should mean that editors are encouraged to look for only certain kinds of books, leading to myopic thinking about what's good and even what's publishable. Supposedly big book publishing should lead only to a type of publishing that's driven by the bottom line, sacrificing the passion, the quirky and unique projects that editors need to be able to take risks on to keep the vital spark of what publishing is all about. In fact, big publishing should, in effect, try and do what Amazon have failed to do, i.e., iron out the inefficiency of the creative, emotional processes of book publishing. But of course, that's not how it works. All of us in book publishing know that breakout books, the huge surprise bestsellers, come from unusual imaginations. Often they are the books around which there has been no fierce competition, no huge advance. Often they are spotted by the most maverick people in the literary agencies or in our editorial teams. In fact, the people who aren't great at keeping schedules, for instance, or being that efficient, believe me. And yet we are also big companies. We do also go for what snooty people might call the lowest common denominator, but others might say are books that have audiences outside cozy literary bubbles. We do encourage our editorial teams who are passionate about deeply mass market books that sell in supermarkets. I'm talking about crime fiction, romance, science fiction, fantasy, children's books, celebrity biographies too, cookbooks, reference books, all sorts. That passion, that creativity, that drive, that works through all the publishing that we do. So I would say that the purpose of a big publishing house is that it is a large organization, and it is the nearest we will probably get to a factory of creativity and imagination. It adapts and adjusts to the authors and audiences as they progress with new waves of ideas, of agents, of authors and editors and readers coming through the industry, bringing new creativity, which has relevancy to each and every part of the process. And even more brilliantly, one thing I've noticed through all my publishing career is that when big publishing companies come together, they are always smaller than the sum of their parts would have suggested. This opens up opportunities for new, smaller, brilliantly independent and nimble publishers to emerge, offering a different route to publishing for authors. I'm talking about amazing companies such as One World, Pirene Press, Gallibegger Press, Comma Press, companies like that. One thing that I probably should mention here is that I know many writers want to contact editors or publishing companies directly. I know that there feels to be a frustrating barrier, particularly with the big companies, as all of us no longer accept unsolicited manuscripts, i.e. manuscripts sent directly from the authors. Please know this is not because we're not open for business or uninterested in your work. The healthiness of the industry that I've described above means that there is so much material coming to us every day through literary agencies that it's unfeasible for us to be able to handle it all. But the beauty of the myriad ways an author can be published is that you are not dependent on that route alone. And one final point I'd make is that even within the giant behemoth of Amazon, they have adapted and created their own versions of publishing imprints to try and replicate what the algorithms can't. And they have developed the model of self-publishing too as a response. Self-publishing is a way of trying to bring that creativity, that author's creativity, almost directly from the author to the reader. I've got no problem with that. I don't think that's a bad thing at all in my view. More authors writing, more creativity being shared, and more opportunities for new readers to find writers and writing that sparks their imaginations, emotions, and thinking just can't be bad at all for anyone. So I want to encourage you today to understand that there are no closed doors. The industry is a huge, healthy, teeming, continually adapting beehive of creativity. If one route to your readers isn't available, there are many, many others that you can try. That's why it probably seems so complex and daunting. You can find your way through it yourself by researching and locating the right publishing model, the right publishing company, or the right editor for you, or you can seek the help of the right literary agent for you to do the same thing. But I promise you, there are a multitude of opportunities for all sorts of writing and for new and emerging authors with stories to share and tales to tell to reach readers and find their way. So thanks for listening to me today, and I wish you the best of luck in all your creative endeavors. Thanks a lot. Bye.